Welcome to the Longevity Formula with Dr. Brandon Crawford. Let's explore the new era of wellness.
Wait, why are we talking about alcohol on a longevity podcast? Interesting question. Well, today's guest builds his own beehives, ferments honey, and is quietly reinventing what it means to have a drink. But more than that, he's asking the same questions we are about health, nature, and the invisible stuff we consume every day. Honey, a natural sweetener made by bees from flower nectar, is rich in antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. It's been shown to have antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties and can help protect against cell damage linked to chronic diseases such as cancer and heart disease. Unlike refined sugars derived from sugarcane and sugar beets, which have no nutritional value and a high glycemic index that causes rapid sugar spikes, honey generally causes a slower rise in blood sugar and offers additional health benefits. This episode isn't just about alcohol or sweetness. It's a conversation about intention, sustainability, and what nature might be trying to teach us if we just slow down and listen. So whether you avoid alcohol entirely, sip occasionally, or want to think more deeply about what you put into your body, this conversation will shift your perspective. So David Lolis, thank you so much for joining us today. I guess let's start. You have a really interesting background. You're an ex-poker player, and now you're a bee expert, changing the world on that front. Can you just kind of give us an overview who you are, where you come from?
Absolutely. So, David Lolis, with the B in the middle now. I've added David Bee Lolis, more memorable. From the start, serial entrepreneur. I look at the world a lot like a bee through many, many eyes, looking at what the world needs. I got into beekeeping about 10 plus years ago, and coincidentally finished playing poker at about the same time. So my love for poker, which was great, kind of transitioned over to my all-in movements of diving into the bee world. It's so fascinating. I could do 3 days of podcasts on how important bees are and how just the study of bees is just incredible. So please ask away. I'll try to fill you in. I'm not a doctor. I'm an enthusiast. I am passionate about everything I do, and I'm all in when it comes to whether it was poker, a decade ago, or now bees and how important they are to the planet.
Absolutely. Well, we were kind of talking before we started here, and so in my profession, functional neurology, we look at muscle tone, and we directly link that to brain tone. I have a saying that brain tone equals muscle tone, and so something that I'll always look at when I'm examining someone is facial tone, and I've always told people, I've always had the thought process of, man, the only other people on the face of the planet that really recognize the facial tone and all these different nuances in the face like a functional neurologist does is a poker player. And so you're actually drawing some correlations with facial recognition in bees. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I recently learned, probably in the last 3 years, that bees have a lot of tools in the tool belt, and one of them is facial recognition, and their ability to see, in this case, a person one time, just by hovering quickly, fraction of a second, they can actually remember your face. Now, bees, whether people know this or not, are not like all other insects. They don't actually attack you unless you're attacking their hive, hurting their habitat, trying to take their honey. But if you go near a hive or a bee comes to you while it's foraging, it will look, it will see, it will recognize you, and it'll put it in its data bank to remember you if you're hostile or not, if you're friendly or not. And that to me is incredible. And of course, you're right. When I play poker, one of the skills that you pick up and that you can really dive into, that can continually evolve, is watching face tones, the muscles that move. Eye movement is very big.
Yeah.
Eye movement is the easiest one, but there's layers of what you can look for: mouth twitches, nervous twitches, just little tiny things. And then if you go from the face down, you can see body and tapping, and then you look for patterns. So it's all about patterns. And of course, bees are incredible in their patterns and what they do, from how they communicate with the waggle dance, how they forage. It's endless.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I'm curious, what do you think about your intention as you're approaching a beehive, right? So if someone is scared or like trying to, obviously swatting the bees will irritate them, so I guess that doesn't count. But does intention matter when you're interacting with these bees?
It absolutely does. Yeah. So the hive, what I call the hive mind, because they work as a collective, they sense everything, obviously by sight. Movement is going to be the easy one. But if you are scared, it's a lot like a canine. A canine can sense when someone's scared, who's dominant. If you're confident, you arrive in a hive. In most cases, this is not always the case, but if you move slow, you move gracefully, you have good intention. They sense all of that as a hive, and of course, there's 80,000 of them, plus or minus 10,000 bees in any given hive, so they can sense those things. You want to be calm. You want to be approach group. A lot of beekeepers like to use the smoke to kind of sedate them and calm them down. But I've seen some incredibly calm beekeepers who are incredible. I'm pretty calm and I'm not scared of them, but for whatever reason, they don't love me, so I have to actually wear a full bee suit. Many beekeepers do not, and then there's a few. Yeah, there's a few that they don't need anything. They can go in at any time. They can pick the queen out. They can put the queen on their neck.
No way.
And the bees will swarm all around their head and not bite them at all. It's incredible to see. It's amazing, actually.
Can that be
no
trained?
AI involved.
Do you think like you could train someone to do that, or you think it's like a vibrational frequency thing of the person?
I think both. I think it is something that's trainable, but you would have to go through some serious training. I don't even know where I would begin with that. But I think the other thing is it comes naturally to some. And for whatever reason, I've mostly see women beekeepers who are really in tune with bees. It's incredible. Yeah, there's someone on socials that I see and I haven't met, but I've seen them, and wow, amazing how they're in tune with the bee population.
That is cool. I know we're talking a lot about bees and the beehive and whatnot, and I will let everyone know, you've developed an amazing product line. We're going to talk about it, and we'll talk more about the specifics of honey and whatnot. But I'm personally like really fascinated with the hive, with bees, with how important they are, for the environment and all those types of things. So I do have a few more questions along those lines, if you don't mind.
Please.
One question I already mentioned, the concept of vibrational frequency. I've read, I haven't experienced it, but I've read that there is a healing vibrational frequency to this hive. And I know there's even I don't know if you would call it a clinic, or, there's operations that try to harness that vibrational frequency from the hive for healing purposes. Is that a thing?
Oh, that's a real thing. Absolutely. So there's a couple of things on that front. So you've got the vibration, then you've got the sound. So those are both independent and they work to get together. They've started to do some things in PTSD for veterans. Especially on the vibration and the sound, where there's a certain frequency that just creates a calming effect. Mm-hmm. And once you dial that in, it's going to be different for everybody. But they're doing testing of how severe your PTSD is or your trauma. They use the bee sounds and the vibration to heal. Incredible. And we haven't even scratched the surface. of what that can do. That plus, so that's more mental. And then on the physical side, you've got your bee venom therapy, and bee venom therapy is a whole other entire thing that is super exciting, not just for the normal things for cancer, etc., but just for people dealing with ailments. We're eating a lot of bad foods, so imagine you can reverse those things with light bee venom therapies and things like that. So, I mean, there's a whole world we haven't even got into in the biomimicry side of things. Which, by the way, before I got into bees, I was into biomimicry, trying to find the things in nature that we can mimic and learn from. And so that's, I mean, I got so lucky. I fell in love with bees, and I'm learning every day. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. The bee venom therapy was actually something I was going to bring up. I mean, this has been talked about and used for lots of things: MS, Lyme disease, cancers, autoimmunity. I mean, do you have experience with that, or is it?
I do not. Yeah, I've started to kind of play around with it just myself for allergies. I mean, I get stung all the time because I'm always hanging around bees. So I'm just kind of doing things myself, not from a data perspective, just from an interest. But I'm starting to follow others that are really diving into that side of things. And you're right. There's a whole list of diseases and things that they can help with. Lyme disease is a big one. I don't know if people realize how severe that is and how damaging it can be, especially to elderly. So I followed a few of the elderly. They were like, I don't know, Lyme disease or get stung by a bunch of bees. And it was kind of hard for them to grasp and be like, well, can I just take a needle or something? And it doesn't work the same way.
That's what I was going to ask you are there different routes of administration besides literal bee stings, or is that just the best because that's the natural mechanism? That's
the purest form. Obviously, someone or some entity is probably going to do that, evolve into extracting the venoms and putting it into a medicine and applying it. But like anything, once you do that, it moves from a raw form into a produced form, which we start adding things to it and it takes away. So it'll never be as good as, bee landing on you or several bees land on you and you getting bit.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. My wife actually told me about this maybe last weekend. And I actually forgot I was talking to you this week. So it was kind of interesting on the timing, but she asked me if I've ever heard of homes now being built with literal beehives in the home. And there's several purposes for it, but one of them was actually for warmth. It was a natural insulation. It would provide warmth. And then, of course, they talked about the vibration that the bees produce. The interesting thing was it's not just one vibration. The vibration changes throughout the day, right? So it's almost like a circadian type of mechanism. I don't know how big this is. I don't know if this is a growing thing. But have you heard of that even?
I have. So on the construction side, it's been done on a very small scale. So first, from an observatory standpoint. So how cool is it, rather than having a hive, be outside your property, which is great. Imagine a hive that's attached to your house, and then they come through, and if you create a glass kind of observatory, you can see them working and building. That's therapy in itself. Cool. Then the sound, depending on how thick you make the glass, etc. That's incredible. And then how you build a hive. As you know, the hexagon is the most perfect shape for building. Architects use it across the world. There's nothing better than a hexagon. But it's what the bees do. So when it comes to air conditioning, heating, things of that nature, again, no one's really looked at it, but if you break down a hive, like how does a hive survive I'm in like Las Vegas right now. It's 110 degrees. There's bees flying around. People are like, how are they handling that? Well, they get into the hive. They all work together as a collective and they push out the heat. They all turn the same way with their wings and they blow that heat out, and it keeps it cool. So for us to actually convert that from a biomimicry standpoint, from a small hive into a house, we'd have to get pretty creative, but it could be done.
That's cool. Well, I guess a broad question here, and we could probably have a whole 2-hour discussion on it, but why are bees so important for our planet?
Wow.
I know it's a big one, but again, people have heard this, probably for maybe over a decade. I mean, it really kind of, rose to a thing where it became more, people were becoming more aware of it. But even to this day, like, people know that, okay, bees are important, but I mean, why? Why should we really care about bees?
Okay, so let's break it down from a species standpoint, and our ecosystem. Let's start there. So for our ecosystem, I don't know of, and maybe there is, because I've got my head in the hive, as I say often. Yeah. I'm not looking around, but from a food supply. Let's just talk about that from ecosystems, from pollination, for flowers and plants to be able to do what they do in our ecosystem doesn't exist without bees. I mean, there are other pollinators, but none that are as on purpose as a honeybee. So from plant growth to protection of ecosystems, and then just our food supply. Our food supply doesn't exist. Some doctors, some data analysts say it's a third of our food supply would disappear. Some say 2/3 of our food supply would disappear. Any part of our food supply that disappears, it's pretty important that we protect the bees. And so above, making products and creating awareness, protecting the bees is really our mission statement in what we do.
Yeah. So obviously there's a global impact here. And I know a big part of what you're trying to do is really just raise awareness and educate the public about how important all of this is. Bees, intentionality, just your whole lifestyle. We were even talking about AI and some of the negative consequences coming from AI before we started recording. So I know that, your mission is big, and that's why I kind of served you up a big question there. And like I said, we could go on that for several hours, but let's kind of shift to this wonderful.
We'll add one more thing.
Yeah.
So the other thing outside of protecting the bee and how important it is for the ecosystem is just good raw complex food, which honey is. And so when you look at the protection of that, imagine fast forward 100 years or 1,000 years, and we didn't have honey, and we had to use simple syrups and regular sugar because we ran out of honey because there were no bees. I mean, God forbid. The value, the properties of raw honey, the fact that it doesn't expire, all the benefits of it, which I'm sure we'll get into. It's all over how important honey is and how it hits different in your body. But just honey by itself, this complex food, is so nourishing and so important to humans that we have to protect it. And so I want to add that.
So that's actually a great segue. I was literally going to shift and say, let's talk about this wonderful stuff that the bees make. So honey compared to sugar, let's just kind of start there, right? Obviously, most people are using it as a sweetener, coffee, tea, whatever, food sort, whatever. So let's just kind of compare it to sugar for a moment, because I think there's a lot of things to kind of point to in regards to glycemic index. We're going to get to the health benefits, but one important thing to really touch on is how, you can consume, and I should qualify. Actually, let me let you qualify. Let's talk about consuming like a processed honey versus a good raw honey and how that compares to sugar. Do you mind starting there?
Yeah. So I think that's the most important. I mean, there's a lot of good important pieces for us to discuss. Most people know the benefits of honey. They really do. And a lot of folks that are buying honey now are getting a lot smarter on where to buy your honey. Well, what does that mean? Well, buy it at a supermarket or buy it from your local bee farmer who you drive down the road and you see him on the side of the road selling his honey. Very different honey. Processed honey, pasteurized honey versus raw honey. Anything that's heated or processed, even if they don't add anything to it, which a lot of honeys do. So any of the big supermarkets that are pushing out, big honeys, Costco, who's selling, discounted honeys. All those honeys are all blended. They come from multiple sources. They're mixing honey with high fructose corn syrup and all this other garbage. So I always recommend that if you're you should have some form of honey for something, whether you're using it for medicinally or using it in your daily tea or coffee or whatever it is. Buy raw honey, because the difference of the impact of how it affects you is game changer. From your allergies, using a local honey that's from your local state and your local bees and your local flowers, that will fix your allergy issues. It will. You'll go through a little period of time, a little curve of, why am I so stuffed up? But no more stuffed up than you usually are during, the hay season or whatever it may be that you're allergic to. Or if you have something in the area that's pollution wise, and you're ingesting honey, it will actually help your immune system. It's incredible. But raw honey form versus a heated or a pasteurized, you want to stay away from that, because it will change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So honey on the immune system. So yes, consuming local raw honey, that makes sense. I think a lot of people can draw the conclusions there. The bees are making that honey based on the nectar, or the pollen. Obviously, a lot of the pollen is driving the allergies. And so you create these, antibody responses, whatever you want to call it, right? You create this immunogenic response. But there's more to it than that in regards to the immune system, because honey can actually help bolster the immune system. It can help you not get sick. It can help you recover from sickness. Do you want to elaborate on a little bit of how honey can help our immune system?
Absolutely. I mean, you're the doctor here. Again, I've done, and the deep dive that I've done, it's helping in so many directions. So let's start with gut health. Gut health is one of the biggest issues that people have, whether they realize it or they want to admit it or not. Gut health is tough. That's why there's all these, prebiotic and probiotic drinks, people moving away from pasteurized milk to raw milk. It's all for the gut. Well, with honey, it's the same thing. Honey is going to help with your gut health, which is key, because that's what drives the rest of your body. That's what, if it's right in the gut, it's great for everything else, for the rest of your body. Yeah. So, that's what for me is the most important. It starts with gut health, but then you get into your antioxidants, your anti-inflammatories. So, in the world of health, we're all trying to be a little bit more healthy. It's actually cool to be healthy now. Right. So people are really gravitating towards it. For recovery time, just going to the gym, doesn't matter if you're an athlete. It's about, if you go to the gym 3 times a week, don't you want to recover faster? Don't you want don't you want to not cramp up? Well, honey helps with that. Honey helps with anti-cramping, recovery times faster. The list is long, really.
That's cool. So to really have a benefit here, should people consume like a spoonful? Do they have to eat a whole jar every day? I mean, what's kind of like a recommended, and again, this isn't like, a doctor's recommendation here. This is just for general health and wellness, like whatever, like what is an amount that one can try and aim for to kind of benefit from consuming honey?
So in the bee balanced approach, which is kind of our part of our mission, everything in moderation. So when it comes to whether it's honey or alcohol, there's 2 very different spectrums. It's all about balance. So, I think a minimum of 1 teaspoon, which by the way takes you're going to look at a teaspoon of honey very different after this podcast, because it takes 1 bee a lifetime, which is 3 to 4 weeks. They live for 3 to 4 weeks, a lifetime to create 1 teaspoon of honey. So the next time you have a teaspoon of honey, think about this bee lived his whole life from the second it was born to the minute it died to create you 1 teaspoon of honey. So something to consider, because every time I do a teaspoon of honey, I think, oh my gosh, this guy worked his whole life. Actually, it's a woman, because it's the women that do all the foraging, and the men just hang around and eat all the honey. They don't do anything in the hive.
Oh my gosh.
So it's the girl bees who do all the work. So she worked her whole life to do this teaspoon of honey. But yeah, it all comes down to caloric intake, what you're trying to do in your health. You got to remember it is a glucose, so or 51% glucose. So you've got to be careful with your caloric intake across the board, just like you have to be careful of how much protein you take and all the rest of those things. Sugar, complex sugars versus simple sugars is a slippery slope.
Right.
So, you want to be balanced and balance it out with what you do. You don't want to overtake anything. Even as much as I love honey and use it as part of my life, I probably don't take as much honey as I probably should. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, I consider it sacred. So I'm becoming a honey sommelier. I get these honey jars from local farmers all over the world. Everywhere I travel, I get off a plane. The first thing I do is I go to an apiary and look for that's what I do. That's because cool. I'm so fascinated by the different types of honey that are created and the tastes and how they hit different, how they make me feel. And those are all different as well. So from a simple wildflower honey, very different than a Manuka rich honey, which has, oh my gosh, a Manuka honey has hydrogen peroxide in it.
Wow.
What? That's right. That's crazy. It's trace amounts.
Which is why you can use it topically or
correct.
Right? You can use it on wounds. You can use it to heal.
Think about that.
Yeah. Right.
So for me, like the amount of Manuka honey I take versus just a regular wildflower honey, very, very different.
Yeah.
And it hits me different. The amount of natural energy I get from 1 teaspoon of Manuka versus 1 teaspoon of clover honey, very different. Very
That's
different.
Interesting. Yeah. I definitely have not gone that far. You're the bee and honey expert here. So I haven't actually thought about that. But one thing I have realized, we got on a raw milk kick several years ago. And you could taste in the milk what the cow was eating. Right. And I was like, wait a minute, if that's true, then there's a different mineral profile, dependent upon what that cow was eating. Like, it just kind of hit me. It makes sense, but,
Mm-hmm.
and of course it would make sense for honey too. So depending on, what they're consuming. So yeah, that's really interesting. That's cool. And then especially to be able to feel how it impacts you. It's
going to be different for everybody. That's the other thing of the how much question. It's based on you. How active are you?
Yeah.
Are you going to the gym? Or are you not going to the gym? Are you walking? Do you walk at least a mile or two a day? Are you always sitting? There's there's this lifestyle questions you need to ask yourself, and that's we can thank ChatGPT for things like that. If you ever want to really know, that'll give you a pretty good understanding. Again, and doctors, I think, will give you a certain amount. Naturopaths and will give you a good understanding. But yeah, depending on how active you are, how much food, how much calories you're taking in, how hydrated you are. Our body's made of 70% water, right? So how much water are you drinking in addition to consuming the honey and other things? So a lot of things to consider.
Right. What about propolis? The other thing when it comes to honey and bees and whatnot.
Amazing.
The bind.
The hive bind, I call it. That is untouched. I would put propolis and royal jelly in kind of the same categories as undiscovered superfoods. Really, really fantastic. And how the bee harvests. They go to trees that are in trouble, and trying to help those trees. And that's where they pull that sap from and those binders. And then they bring it back to the hive. And of course it just makes the hive thrive. Yeah. And for us to be able to participate in taking propolis, as well as pollen. Now you can get, bee pollen, which is not a honey, very different. Again, it hits your system different. Propolis, undiscovered as far as all the things that it can do, but it's a long list of benefits for humans.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's kind of shift gears again. I kind of teased a little bit about alcohol at the beginning of the podcast, and of course, I was referencing the product line that you've created, Hive₂O. So you've created this product, which is a fermented honey drink, essentially, right? And I could be misspeaking, but there's actually. Yes,
exactly
was it 6% alcohol? I mean, tell us a little bit about your product line and why you made it.
Sure. So first, again, it was all about the bees. And when I started learning about bees and discovering how fascinating they were, I looked at the market like I always do as a serial entrepreneur and say, what's the market missing? What does it need and why? Right? The big why.
Yep.
And when I looked at the market, I saw a lot of drinks. There's a lot of foods. I looked at, potentially doing a honey line, but then there's lots of others that already do that. So I thought, that doesn't really fill a gap. So when I looked at the beverage industry, I looked at the ingredients that they use, all the fillers, the additives, the expiration. And I said, well, honey is just such an incredible, ingredient. Why are we not using it more? Yeah. And the answer was that it's not cheap. It's not easy. It's not simple. And so the first product I created, which is something that was actually created during the Egyptian time, was fermented honey. With any kind of yeast, water, and honey, you can make an alcohol all the way up to 20%. Wow. And so the Vikings and the pirates, they all used to drink something called mead. It sounds like meat, but it's mead with a D on the end. And that's just that was the alcohol that came before wine and before beer. Just that was the very first alcohol. Just for a little history lesson. So I always looked at mead kind of when I kind of went through my phase of like everything I do being all in. I was a whiskey guy, and then I was a wine guy, and then I got into beer for a while. Really dive into, the flavors and closing my eyes and saying, where is it from, from a sommelier standpoint. Mm-hmm. But no one was doing anything like this with honey. And then I looked at mead and I thought, well, maybe I'll try to help the bees with mead. But the problem with mead is that it was just too strong. It was both in alcohol content, very high in alcohol. And then the taste was very distinct. So if you're a Viking, great. Right. If you're at a Renaissance fair, fantastic. But there was nobody that was kind of blending it to be palate accepted. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do something different. And so that's how Hard Honey was born. Well, actually, before Hard Honey, it was Hive₂O. So Hive₂O is the chemical symbol for honey water, because H2O is water, Hive₂O is honey water. So that was born first, and then that evolved to both an alcohol and non-alcohol version. So I do both. We have a honey water that's Hive₂O, and then our alcohol version is Hive₂O, and that's 6%. So what you do is you put the yeast in a really good water. Water is very important as well. So if you're going to use a great honey, a raw honey, you can't use a purified water. That's a negative. You don't want to put in something that's full of things into a pure product. So you've got to use spring water. So we use spring water, we use raw honey, and then we use real fruit. That's the other thing, is if you're going to make a really great product, you can't use 1% juice or 3% juice. You can't use fake products. You've got to use the real deal. So that's when Hive₂O was born. Hard Honey, very unique. I saw no value from an entrepreneur, from a business standpoint of raising awareness with an alcohol, which is mead. It's been around for 5,000 plus years, maybe 8,000 years. And most people don't even know what that is. They've never heard of it. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay. So there you go. So case in point. So I created the category of hard honey. What people could remember, they've heard of hard lemonade. They've heard of hard kombucha, hard honey, just easy to remember. And then I got really creative in the formulas. I didn't want to create anything that was the same as anything that had been on the market, both how it looked, how it tasted. So the flavor profiles, or what I call palate experiences, were born. And so what connects all of our different products, and we don't have to dive, too deep on it, but from the alcohol side, which was the very first, it's called the first version of Hive₂O, we evolved into a non-alcohol, because the non-alcoholic market, people are sober curious now. People want, the new, I don't know if it's Gen Z. They don't drink as much. They do alternate things.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for an alternative, adult beverage that doesn't have the alcohol, or that's the side effects from alcohol.
Mocktail. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we created the Hive₂O line. We have a non-alcoholic wine and then a non-alcoholic hops. And so we've got kind of something for everybody. And then we expanded even further by using our really great water, because water is the key. Like our bodies that are made up of 70% water, your drinks are mostly made up of water. And if you're going to put that in your body, make sure it's spring water, because that's naturally occurring, right? Comes from the ground, comes from the mountains. That's what you want to be putting in your body. You don't want to put anything purified or reformulated, right? Nothing that's been biohacked. So, that's really Hive₂O. That's and we've expanded into the athletes have said, wow, this is a really great product. You have something that for performance, because honey is so beneficial for muscle cramping, those kinds of things. Can you do that? And so we said, yeah, you know what? We'll come up with a naturally occurring electrolyte. So we have a Manuka water that's actually coming out that you didn't know about. Yeah. I wanted to announce that actually with you. So soon, athletes and everybody will have access to it, but just imagine the best ingredient. So we're going to use Manuka honey, which is one of the most beneficial honeys on the planet, because the flowers that are foraged are very rare from New Zealand and Australia. So the benefits are huge to ingest that. And then we've added coconut water to that, which is the best electrolyte on the planet still, after hundreds and hundreds of years. Right. I don't know if you know much about coconut water, but that was kind of my previous life. So there was many moons ago, I did a coconut water company, and it was very successful. Yeah. And that was, that's what kind of got me into the beverage industry. Okay. I should have started with that at the beginning, but
there's cool information. I just looked at, it's old research, but just by consuming a good quality coconut water every day, you can actually have a very positive impact on your microbiome. Like there was a really good study that connected that. I hadn't seen that before. I just read that recently, maybe a week ago or so. But yeah, the benefits of coconut water are huge.
Massive. So yeah, I really learned a lot about coconut water like 18 years ago, and kind of stepped away from it. And then of course now coconut water is available everywhere. But again, the kind of coconut water that you put in your body, the difference between raw coconut water, like right out of the coconut, versus, through the process and into the bottle and all of that, very different coconut. So our goal is to take a raw coconut and raw honey and put them together. That's awesome. And sit in a spring water and not pasteurize and not heat up and take all the nutrients and benefits out of it. So, awesome. And one of the things I don't know if you knew about, but technology wise that we do differently as well. We're using a UV technology to kill all the bad bacteria, but not kill all the good nutrient bacteria, the good bacteria.
Sure.
So big difference. So mostly everything that everyone drinks, whether it's in a can or bottle or glass container, it goes through a process to be able to be shelf stable. Well, when you do that, you heat up the ingredients and you kill all the benefits. So even if it says, good for gut health, well, the moment that it pasteurized at 180 degrees, you've lost all of those benefits. Yeah. So what we do different is we use UV technology to only kill the bad bacteria so that it doesn't grow in the container, and have a somewhat of a good shelf life. We're using honey, so that doesn't expire, so that helps. But the other things do expire. So we've got like a 2-year shelf life, which is really great for something that's not pasteurized or we kill all the nutrient benefits.
Yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, of course, people will talk about pasteurization from several different angles, from a health standpoint, right? As long as you're using a good, clean source, as long as you're taking good precaution, you're producing it properly, all these things. I mean, I don't want to consume things that are pasteurized. There's several reasons why we don't. It kills the product, right? Whether you're talking about honey, coconut water, dairy, all these things. I mean, you're essentially killing the enzymes, you're denaturing proteins, you're changing the actual state of this biological substrate, and all the known benefits then kind of go out the window, and you're consuming a dead product. So this is definitely a problem in the food space, and they do, it's done to, not get sick. I don't want a stomach ache. I don't want to whatever, right? And I acknowledge that. That's fine. We don't want to get sick, but I mean, I'm a guy that will consume raw eggs, because of the health benefit of that at times, right? I mean, so there's a risk to benefit ratio. And as long as, again, I'm not consuming raw eggs from, Pilgrim's Pride, or, where all the chickens are stacked up on each other and they're, fecal matters on everything. And, I'm not consuming that raw egg. I'm consuming the chicken that was free roaming, eating bugs and, that kind of thing, harvested properly, all the things, right? So that's what you have to understand as a consumer, is that how these things, all this stuff that you're talking about, I hope people are acknowledging all of the intention to the process, because that is so vitally important when you're consuming things, and definitely appreciated on my end for sure. I'm glad you brought up coconuts. I have a secret love affair with coconuts. My wife and I, we took a 3-month-long sabbatical about, 8 or 9 years ago. We sold everything. We moved to Costa Rica. We were going to live there for longer, but we had some business opportunities, came back and whatever. But we absolutely fell in love with pipas, with the coconuts there. And pipas, just, getting a coconut literally just off the beach, cutting it open and drinking it. Oh my gosh, it was sweet. It was refreshing. It was hydrating. It was an experience like none other. I've never consumed something so amazing like this. And so anytime we travel, this is another reason why we love traveling to Central, South America, Mexico, all these things. We like to go and taste the coconuts. And while I love going to Mexico, I don't like the coconuts there. They just don't have the flavor. I don't know. There's just something about them. But man, there is something magical about that coconut in Costa Rica. So yeah, I definitely have the secret love affair with coconuts. When do you think when is your new product coming out? Is that soon?
Manuka water?
Yeah.
Manuka water will come out in the next probably 45 days.
Nice.
Yeah. We're super excited about it. Again, it's all about the process. So it's about getting the right coconuts and the right honey. You touched on something that I love to kind of speak to is harvesting and harvesting responsibly. That's very important for honey as we grow and honey becomes more mainstream and people are interested in taking more honey. That is an impact that the planet all decides, we all love honey. That's going to impact the production. And so harvesting responsibly is key, because a lot of bee farms, they throw down water and sugar and rather than natural wildflowers. Mm-hmm. And that's how they're getting their bees to produce honey. That's not the same. Right. Throwing down sugar water for them to be their food versus going to a flower, very different kind of honey. So again, local honey, local coconuts, very, very different. And you're right. As you go from region to region, I've recently been to Belize. The coconuts in Belize are incredible. That happens to be where we're getting our coconuts from. Nice. So not just because we're doing that, because we have access to we've got access to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Costa Rica. There's many places you can get coconuts from, but Belize, they just taste better. They just taste incredible. So when you have the opportunity, yes, absolutely, you have to try a Belize coconut. I'm going to have some brought in in large totes. And when I do, I'll make sure that I send some to you and your wife. You'll really appreciate it. It'll be sent cold and chilled because again, we don't pasteurize, so it'll be raw. Right. So it does have an expiry.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Expiries are good in this case.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like the research where, someone left a McDonald's hamburger or French fries, whatever it was. They left it out trying to see how long it would take to mold, and it never did. I think it's still going on. It's like, come on, is that really what you want to be consuming? I mean, come on.
Yeah, but it's changing. People, we as people are looked at things as the expiry. Oh, it's not long enough, or it's not a long shelf life, and that's not what food's supposed to be. Food's supposed to have an expiry, unless it's honey. That's the magic. That's the elixir of the planet.
True. Yeah. You keep that stuff for ages in your cabinet. Yeah.
Oh, they still have honey. Oh, it depends on what it's in. Don't recommend in plastic, but in glass, you can leave it forever. And they have to put by, FDA or whatever the governing food body is, they have to put an expiry, but honey does not expire.
Nice. That's awesome.
It is proven. And cinnamon as well. It's one of the very few things that never expire.
Didn't know that. That's interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I know everyone's going to want to try your product. How can they try your product? Do you order online? You go in the store? Explain that.
Yeah, online is our biggest. We're slowly growing across the U.S. We're in 8 states now. Select Whole Foods. We're getting in more and more retailers. But online, Hive₂O.com, Hive₂O.com, hardhoney.com, and even Hive H2O. So we do have a spring water as well, because most people drink a lot of water.
Yes.
And everyone was saying, wow, your drink is just, how do you make it taste so good? Well, it's about the water and the ingredients. And so we have 2 really great water sources. And everyone, for whatever reason, it's really funny, Brandon. People couldn't remember the name when I first launched the brand Hive₂O. Now it seems simple enough, but I don't know. They just couldn't get it. But they remembered Hive H2O. They for whatever reason, Hive₂O turned into Hive H2O once it passed through the pathways of their brain. And so I kept correcting people like, it's not Hive₂O, it's Hive H2O. And until I got tired of it. And one day I was driving and had an epiphany. I was like, wow, I really need to launch a product called Hive H2O because people just, they're not getting it. And so that's when I created the water, and I had some athletes that are our brand ambassadors that said, David, God, I love all your products, but can you make a water? Because I just drink so much water, and I love the water that's in your product. I said, yeah, absolutely. So Hive H2O was born just at the end of last year, and that's just a mineral rich spring water, naturally occurring minerals, calcium, magnesium, all the things that you need in your water, all naturally occurring.
Nice.
Nothing messed with. And it tastes different. I'll make sure to get you some of that too. Absolutely. When you try it, you'll say, oh my God, what's the sweetener in here? It's not, it's the minerals.
Yeah.
If you find the right minerals, like anything, like why your coconuts taste different, why honey tastes different. If you find those right natural occurring minerals, it's a game changer on your palate, and it tastes different. It actually tastes like we fortified it or changed it, but we didn't. That's the natural mineral taste. Yeah. So Hive₂O.com as well.
Yeah. I've tried your water. It does. It has that sweetness to it, which is awesome. I love sparkling water. I'm like a huge sparkling water nut. And I've tried all types. And that's one thing that we'll do when we go to a new area, like especially, Italy or Spain or something. They have some really cool sparkling water. Some of them are terrible, but sometimes they're really good. And I always ask, or I read, where's the source? I always want to know the source. But yeah, your product is cool. And you're right. It has kind of a sweet undertone to it. I can definitely appreciate that.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be stocking up more. My Whole Foods right across the street here didn't have the product. Maybe I just didn't find it. Maybe I just need to go.
Where are you? Which state are you in?
Cedar Park, so just north of Austin, Texas.
Okay, yeah, we're not in Texas yet. We're working on Whole Foods nationally. And we've kind of done little areas. We haven't been in Texas yet, but that is on the map.
Nice. All right. Well, I'm in there like all the time. It's right next to my office. So I'll give you a shout out. I'll tell them, hey guys, you need to be carrying this stuff.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right. So before we wrap up here, just have a question for you, another broad question.
Sure.
So there's a metaphor, comparing the honey hive to humans, right? To us collectively as a human culture. Mm-hmm. Is there something that we've lost in this human culture that you can find that's still resonating in that beehive? Like, is that a good metaphor? And then are you seeing, like, is there a connection? Have we lost something? What are your, and again, this, you can go in any direction here. I'm just kind of serving you up something to chew on.
Sure. So off the cuff, there's a couple things. So to me, bees are the most systematic, organized, system because they all work together. The hive mind, there's no one leading them. There's no one telling them what to do. There's something to be learned from that because they act independently, but collectively.
Yes.
That's a game changer. I run my company like that. Anyone who works with me, works for me, knows we are the hive mind. We're the collective, which means, I set the direction of where everybody should fly and I show where the flowers are that we need to pollinate. But other than that, I don't tell anybody what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it. They just know. Just like a bee wakes up the day it's born, it knows its job. If it's a male, it's to protect the hive and build honeycombs. And if it's a female, she goes and forages and brings back the nectar. Yeah. That's the jobs. And then they all work together. They all know what to do when the hive is hot. They know to cool it down. When it's cold, they know to heat it up. Yeah. All together. So I think from a humanitarian standpoint, we can learn from that of how all to work to better collectively. No division. There is no division in a hive. Think about that.
Exactly.
Like that to me. Look, you look at our planet and our state of things, and the left and the right, and all the noise. Mm-hmm. Why can't we be the collective, right? Exactly. Doing the things that we need to do. We wake up, we know to do the right thing. That to me is so valuable to humans. And then from the mystic side, so that's the operation side. From the mystic side, honey is magical. Whatever you believe in, religion, not, you have to look at this little tiny being that's less than the size of your thumb and lives for 3 weeks and has all of this knowledge, is on purpose every day. That to me is mystifying. That's like, wow. Mm-hmm. We as on purpose human beings, if we don't intrinsically know what to do, we should be learning how to be better. So that we can do better, so the bees have kind of become my God, because the way that they operate together, the way they treat each other, and the way that they help the planet. They help the planet more than all of us, because that's what they do. That's what they were born to do, right? And so we have to protect them for that reason. And then so there's the how they're helping us, and then how do we help them? We need to help them from, companies. I'm a company, but how we're going to harvest responsibly and make sure that we take the right amount of honey so they can continue to survive, that we put in more wildflowers so that they can, they can forage from real flowers that help pollinate versus an M&M factory where sugar is being poured out the back. I don't know if you've heard of this. Did you hear about the honey that became in all this multicolored? It was really popular for like a year, and everyone was buying all this colored honey, and they were like, well, where are you foraging it from? And they made up that there were some flowers that were creating this great color. Well, a beekeeper, curious beekeeper, said that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know any flowers that are this crazy colors and like neon pink and all this stuff. So they followed the bees, and they followed it to an M&M factory, and in the back were all the off liquids from the like seeping out from the factory. That's where the bees were pulling their the sugar water from. It was all colored M&Ms. They brought that back and they created this colored honey.
That's insane.
It is insane. So, we need to be smarter about protecting them, and because they're so valuable to us. So there's still so much to learn. And as we grow, as the interest grows, the more stewards of protecting bees we have to be. Yeah. Hey, you need to I'm going to send you some Manuka honey for that little sniffle you got.
I'm telling you.
It'll clear up so fast.
We stayed in this stupid moldy house, the Airbnb. It was a nice place, but they totally catfished us on the images. And I'm telling you, we got there at 11:30 p.m. I knew something was wrong. And I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know what it is. Something's not right with this house. And she was like, it's late. Let's go to sleep. We have a lacrosse tournament tomorrow. Woke up, we're all coughing, eyes matted shut. Literally, it doesn't take long. Mold everywhere under the sinks, in the tile, in the carpet. I mean, they didn't even try to hide it. And we've been coughing. I'm taking all my binders and all the things, and this is better. Like I couldn't do podcasts or anything. I couldn't do it last week.
Right.
So I mean, this is better. But yeah, I'm not taking Manuka honey, so I need to.
Absolutely. I'll send you a nice raw jar for sure. Make sure I get your address.
That's awesome.
I'll send you one right from our farm in New Zealand. You'll love it and you'll benefit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For you hit the nail on the head. I think we can learn a whole lot because just like you said, these bees, while they're independent, they all act collectively. And so their independent actions have an influence on the health and the status of that hive. That's true for us. That's true for our world. That's true for everything. And there is so much to learn from that. And the other thing to point to, I always talk about social engagement. Social engagement is huge for our brain development, and for proper prefrontal, frontal lobe, vagal system. Like all of these things have to come together to have proper functional social engagement. And when you look at the bee, when you look at the hive, their social engagement is spot on. I mean, they can be going out doing their thing, but then they come back to the hive, and just like you said, if it's hot, they all collectively cool it off. If it's cold, they collectively cool it down. Like they're communicating and they're working together. And that's something that we are largely losing in today's world. And of course, it really came to the forefront with COVID. Everyone had to, go and be on their own. And then now we're making it worse with all the AI and with all the technology. And we're just getting less and less socially engaged, So that's a big thing that I like to point to, is how they do work collective. They come together. What is the best thing for the hive? What is the best thing for our world, right? And they work towards that. It's really cool. But all right, so I know we're coming up on time here. So is there anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation before we sign off? And then also tell people how they can learn more about you, about everything you've been talking about. You already said, explained how to get the products, but where can they go to learn more?
Yeah. So, I try to keep up. I'm not huge on social media. I'm kind of pushed to be, so people can, again, learn more and create awareness. So, we have a couple of Instagram. We have Hive₂O at Hive₂O. We have, Hive₂Hand, which is, the farm to table. We're Hive to Hand. So Instagram is Hive to Hand. I would just say that, bees can teach us, a lot more than, like you said, on the social aspect, how to live better, how to be better. I'd like to, obviously you to create awareness and to do things in the world. If I could be a full mission-based company, I would be. I would just say bees all day. I really would. But it's not a perfect world like that. So we have to create things. And if you're going to create something, why not create something great? And then the other part is just how to learn how to be balanced with AI, like you've talked about. There's so much information coming in now, and how do you decipher what's real, what's not, what do you take? I mean, Instagram's a perfect example of every time someone posts something, you go, wow, is that a doctor that's telling me that? Is that a good thing? How much honey should I be taking? Like
Right.
all of those things. So, be aware. The messaging that it's important to me, not as a doctor, just as I think I'm a good human being, is just be balanced and make better choices. And if you do that on a daily, life is just better,
Yeah, it really is for yourself and for others. Yeah. I mean, when you do it right, it's better for everyone. So
yeah. That's
awesome.
really it. So I really appreciate you, for doing this, and I hope you get better.
Yeah, thanks, man. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on. This was, a really engaging conversation. I'm glad we had it. It goes beyond honey. It goes beyond bees. Like we're talking about intention. We're talking about the world and the current status of things. So I hope people were able to connect those dots. So if you're listening out there, you like this information, please subscribe, share, do all those things that to do. David and I are coming together today, taking time out of our day to help people. That's why we're doing this. So if this information can benefit someone that please share this information with them. And of course, start consuming these amazing products because they're good for you. They're good for the world. They're made with really good intentions, which really does matter. So again, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you as well. You have a great day.
We hope today's episode has inspired you to take that next step toward your best self. Remember, the path to longevity is paved with small, daily decisions. Your journey is unique, and every step, every choice, brings you closer to your ultimate vision of a healthier, happier life. For more insights, tips, and resources, visit drbrandоncrawford.com.